Good evening. This is a sober Wednesday in Kenya, but we thank God for everything. Whatever happens in the reality of man is because God has allowed it to happen. So we do not cry for, but we bless the name of the Lord and we push forward. This is Amazing Grace of Glory International Chapel, AGGIC, Kadosh Altar. We are vibrating with the energy of the supernatural. So connect with the supernatural manifestation of grace, and God will bless you. Today we are talking about activating employment grace. And the CV that we are looking into today is the CV of man Joseph. We have so far been able to look into two critical CVs. One was for David, and the other one was Esther Hadasha. So today we have the privilege of looking at the CV of Joseph. And I keep on insisting, jobs are there. If you take the daily newspaper, there is a whole page or even two that contains job advertisement. So the jobs are there. The problem is who is being employed. And I told you, the employer doesn't employ merely academic papers simply because you have a degree or a diploma or a certificate or you have a skill. The employer can employ someone who even doesn't have papers but has what that employer is seeking. And in most cases, most of the employers, what they look at in the potential employee is not captured with the natural eyes. The employers employ something that is outside natural eyes. And go and do your own research and you tell me. And especially these employers who are spiritual in nature, mostly Hindus and Muslims. Those guys are very deep in spirituality. Christians were the one who are left in religiosity, don't know. You can go to look for a job in a farm of a Muslim, and he looks at you this way and chases you away like a dog. You can go to look for a job in an Indian company, and the employer looks at you this way. You have not done anything. You have just presented yourself, and he chases you away like a cockroach, shouting at you, telling the watchman, open the gate for him or her. I do not want to see that character here. And you fail to understand, what wrong have I done? Because most of the employers, they don't employ academic qualifications, but they employ something inside you that is invisible. You may call it potential or capacity or capability, but it is an energy. You can't see it with your eyes. That is what the employer looks at. What kind of energy are you vibrating at? Can that energy comply? That's the reason why the greatest investment you can make in your career progression is spiritual CV investment, more than physical academic CV investment. You hear saying that I am going back to school, I want to increase my knowledge, so I'm pursuing a diploma in ABCD. What if you had pursued a diploma spiritually? I don't know that it makes sense. And you shall see that when you shall be looking at the Bezalel. But can you look, today we are looking at priests. Today we are looking at Joseph CV. And I'll highlight like about 15 or 14 secrets that we shall find in Joseph. Can you look at this? Genesis 41. I would like you to listen to this verse. And verse 33. And now, let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Has a position been created? Has a vacancy been created with that statement? Yes. Joseph had just been called to interpret the dream of the king. And interpreting the dream of the king, the dream ended up coming up with a vacancy that it didn't exist in the government employment system. Joseph introduced it, and he told Pharaoh, find or look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. And already Pharaoh is in charge of Egypt. What does he say? He was creating another office. You remember our beloved former Prime Minister, the Kenyan political enigma. In 2007, there was the chaos that they touched me. Those chaos touched me. That's why I hated tribalism. And by the end of that crisis, that was almost turning into a civil war, they built an office that never existed in the governance system of Kenya, and they called it the Prime Minister. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store them in silos. Okay, that is very good. Then look at verse. Let us look at verse Gapi. Verse 30, verse 40. Verse 40. See, help me the phone. Says, you shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are submitted to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. So Joseph has created an office up there. And now we see him occupying the service. So, are we together? Says, let's go back to Genesis 41 and verse 33. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. So that is a position that is being created. And now we see in Genesis 41 and verse 40, you shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Honor with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. So we see Joseph occupying the position. Let me tell you the truth, people of God. God can create a vacancy where it doesn't exist for the sake of his beloved. God can create, and he is going to create. God is going to create. Me, I've walked with this God for a while. I'm just from prayers. I'm just from prayers. And I was having a discussion with God. You know, he is my father. God can create, and he is going to create. When me, I'm interacting with my father, I don't go to him as if he is a enigma. I go to him as my father. And I was telling him, me, I know you. And I know what you can do. And I know you do not need anybody to give you permission to do what you want to do. It just only takes your will. And me, I'm believing God. There is something that he is going to do. And it will leave many people with their mouths wide open. Because they won't believe or they won't understand why God has done it to whoever he is going to do that to. You know, many people think that some certain things can only be done to specific people. No. Before the Lord, if you gain favor in the presence of the Lord, whatever the Lord wants to do, he will do. And no one can ask him, what are you doing? Genesis 41 verse 33. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and a wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Then 41:40 says, you shall be in charge of my palace. So he has gotten the job. He created a vacancy and he made sure nobody have the qualification he has. That is why we were told yesterday about Vashti and Esther. The one who was to replace Vashti must be better, was supposed to be better than Vashti. So Joseph here, he is saying, no. In the government of Egypt, we have a new job. But this job, he puts conditions, says, the person to occupy this job must be ABCD, making sure no one else will have those qualifications because they are not of their system. They are of an external superior system. So he knew the kind of the person he is telling Pharaoh to find cannot be found in Egypt, cannot be found in there. The problem we have, many believers, when seeking job, is we are seeking job from a natural perspective. You are going to look for a job, and the people have submitted their CVs. Some of the CVs are coated with charms. Others are injected with despair. Others have some certain kind of incantations done on them. And you just bring a dry CV. And you're going to compete with those people. Your CV is just look at it, they look at it and they see this one is actually increasing paperwork. So it's a part of the waste. They throw it to the dustbin. But do you know there is a CV you can submit? All the other CVs are taken, they are thrown into the dustbin. And your CV is taken straight to the boss himself. I don't know whether you have ever worked with them, with these two girls that are called the receptionist. If kanaweza kukuangalia vikakuchukie, your CV will never even reach at the table of the human resource. But there is a CV you can submit. If you look at it on the paper, it is so natural. But it is speaking with a loud mouth that cannot be silenced. That it is speaking in the whole company. That even the boss is asking, I want you to give me all documents, all CVs that have been submitted. Give them, all of them, give them to me, give them. Because there is one CV that is speaking with a very big loud voice that even the boss cannot have peace in the office. You're looking for a job. Do you know who you're competing with? You're competing with the people who they spend the night in the house of witches being charged. They are being charged for the same job you are seeking. For the same job that you are pursuing. And you are just there saying, hey, you know who I am going here. Why? Rise up. Rise up. And be a person that sees deeper than the natural. And be a person that sees deeper than the natural. Let me post these verses. And I'd like you to see it holistically. And you shall be able to know that it is not as we think. Things are not done casually the way we do them. That's what Jesus said. The problem with the children of the light is that they do not know how to be smart than the children of darkness. The children of the darkness, they know how to deal with their own kind than they are the children of the light. Praise Jesus Christ. Joseph. Can we look at those verses very briefly? Let us look at those verses. I would like you to consider that verse, Genesis 41 verse 33. Can we read together? Or does it say, and now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Then verse 40, you shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. Verse 41, so Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Ah, I love that. Can you read again verse 33? Look for a man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Read verse 41. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Can you go and occupy? Me, if there is a character in the Bible that I don't exhaust studying and researching, is Joseph. Because he surprises me so much. The guys like Akina, who are these? Daniel and Akina Esther Mordecai, they don't shake me so much. Because they already had the Bible. They had the Torah. But Joseph, there was no written epistle. Even Akasigoka page of Bible. And he is ruling there. He is there. He is there walking like a boss. Not like a boss, walking as boss. Look at verse 42. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and he put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in the robes of the fine linen, and he put a gold chain around his neck. Wow. He said to him, he had him ride in a chariot as his second in command. And the people shouted before him, make way. Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, but without your word, no one will lift a hand or a foot in all Egypt. Do you remember that dream you saw? I can't remember properly the dream, but you saw in a way that like you were put on a motorbike and a certain woman was made to go ahead of you, shouting that this is the one that is blessed by the Lord. Remember that dream? It was a procession dream. By that prophet, it was the one who was being used in the place of Haman, was that the prophetess. People are walking with potentials of the supernatural, but they have not been activated. Can I highlight very briefly the CV of Joseph? Number one is active presence of the Lord. That will always be point number one. Whether you go to Brazil or whether you go to Netherlands, this principle is always principle number one. In the beginning, God. Active presence of the Lord. Can we read Acts 7, 9 to 10? Acts 7, 9 to 10. Let's just read. There is a secret there revealed by Stephen. Says, because the patriarchs were jealous of Joseph, they sold him as a slave into Egypt, but God was with him. But God was with him and rescued him from all his troubles. He gave Joseph wisdom and he enabled him to gain the goodwill of the Pharaoh king of Egypt. So he made him ruler over Egypt and all his palace. So kingdom one is, and God was with Joseph. That is what made the Pharaoh give Joseph that job. Active presence of the Lord. Number two is proved. Proved. P-R-O-V-E-D. Proved by the word of the Lord. Proved by the word of the Lord. Psalms 105. Psalms 105. You must be tested by the word of the Lord. Not tested, but tested by the word of the Lord. Psalms 105, we read specifically verse 19 to 22. Till what he foretold came to pass, till the word of the Lord proved him true. The king sent and released him. The ruler of peoples set him free. He made him master in his household, ruler over all he possessed, to instruct his princes as he priest and teach his elders wisdom. So Joseph could enter into parliament and started teaching senators and members of parliament about wisdom. He could go to cabinet meeting and start there telling them some certain technologies of that time. Joseph. The Bible says, till the word of the Lord proved him right. Have you been tested by the word of the Lord? Have you been proved right by the word of the Lord? If you are put on the scale, the word of the Lord on this side, and you are put on this side, which one is going to take the weight of the other? Till the word proved him. Number three, flame of fire. flame of fire. Obadiah 1 verse 18. Joseph was a flame of fire. Obadiah or Obadiah, why am I tired? Obadiah 1 and verse 18 says, Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. So Joseph was not just Joseph, he was a flame. That is why nobody could understand him. That is why his brothers are looking at him and they cannot recognize their brother. Let us argue. We have our daughter. Her name is Lady Vasati. Just think of it. She gets lost. And then we meet with her when she is about 35 years. And you tell me we cannot recognize her. Because they saw Joseph at age 17. And they met Joseph when the famine was about 5 years. And Joseph had become prime minister at age 30. So 30 minus 17 is about 13 years. Plus 5, 18 years. So 18 years gap. Na mtu alitoka akiwa mzima. And you cannot recognize him. There must be something on him that was making it difficult to recognize him. And it's not the attires, no. Even the instinct could have spoken. Joseph was a flame of fire. Number 4, birthright. Sorry, not birthright. Firstborn birthright. Firstborn birthright. First Chronicles 5, 1-2. I know I spoke about this point in Facebook, not in TikTok. First Chronicles 5, 1-2. I spoke about this point in TikTok and it surprised many people. Joseph was in Egypt as a firstborn of Jacob. Can we read there? Let's just read there. First Chronicles 5, 1-2. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel. He was the firstborn. But when he defiled his father's marriage bed with Bilhah, his right as firstborn were given to the sons of Joseph, son of Israel. So he could not be listed in the genealogical record in accordance with his birthright. And though Judah was the strongest of his brothers, and a ruler came from him, the right of the firstborn belonged to Joseph. The right of the firstborn belonged to Joseph. Firstborn, birthright. You don't tell me, but it was not supposed to be that way. It was supposed to run down the birth ranking. No. Remember, Jacob had 4 families: Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah. So if the family of Leah rejected the birthright, it could not go to the second-born of Leah. In this context, it went to the next wife, because this is now prioritizing wives. And Joseph, that is how he got the birthright. This is a CV, the secret CV of Joseph. We kneel down, we pray, hey, God of Joseph, take me out of the dungeon. You're in the dungeon of unemployment. But there are principles that were assisting Joseph in getting that job. Remember, it was a job. He was even given presidential motorcade. He was there as deputy president. Or did he not say so? It said so. For Pharaoh said, he made him second in command and made him ride in a chariot as his second in command. And he told him, you shall be in charge of my palace, and all of my people are submitted to you. Only with respect to the throne would I be great to you. That is a deputy president. That's not even a prime minister. That if Pharaoh could die, Joseph would have just assumed as Pharaoh. Okay, there. Look at the following. Something else is a spiritual father. Spiritual father. Spiritual father. Genesis 37 verse 3 and verse 20. Is it 20? I can't remember. Genesis chapter 3, Genesis 37 verse 3, but I would like to read verse 34 because the one that explains about the spiritual father. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on his sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. No, he said, in the morning I will go down to the grave to my son. So his father wept for him. If you look at this concept, Jacob was declaring that it is better he die for his son. That's a spiritual father. Jesus Christ is one who died for us. That's why notice in verse 3, he loved Joseph more than his sons and made Joseph a robe of ornamented robe of many colors. I'm just trying to brief ourselves. I'm not detailing. Something else that is very, very, very key about Joseph is the heart of the Lord. Heart of the Lord. Genesis 49:22. Genesis 49 verse 22 says, mostly not 22, mostly 24, but it is 22 to verse 26. But I'd like to read verse 24. But his bow remained steady, his strong arms stayed supple because, do you get that? Because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, the rock of Israel. So Jacob is saying, Joseph, the reason why you exiled is because the hand of the mighty one was upon you. So you are going through for a job. Make sure the mighty hand of God is on you. And I taught you how do you activate the hand of the Lord to come upon you. That is very important. Are we still looking for jobs? Do we have faith we are going to get jobs? Imagine Joseph, he is in Egypt there as a commodity. Remember, Joseph was in Egypt as a commodity because his brothers sold him there. 20 shekels, bei ya jioni. He was also there as a slave. And he was also there as a rapist accused. And he was also there as a prisoner. So he was also there as an illegal trespass immigrant with no ID, with no passport, with no work permit, with no visa, with no green card, with no host. Nobody was hosting Joseph there. And then he is there saying, you know, if Joseph has not said anything, the government cannot operate. How now? So the spiritual CV is more superior than the physical CV. They are all here, they've been here for years. They have not taken me anywhere. All these papers are here. BA, C plus, whatever. Certificates are here. but they have not taken me anywhere. Because there is another CV that makes this natural CV relevant. Ulifika class gapi? Mimi si kusoma. Igeira kazi. That the boss is willing to pay for you, you go back to school while working. I love that. That the boss is willing. That do you have this? Do you have accountancy, CPA, CPA 1, CPA 2, CPA? You know, if you could have CPA 4, but don't mind. We work, but you're going to pay for you in the college. You'll be attending evening classes. And another one comes with the CPA, I don't know even CPA, whatever, and a degree, and a diploma, and whatever. And the boss looks at them and he tells the soldier, chase that man out of my company. You know what is the difference here? This one came with just physical CV. These are just papers. They have been acquired through money and through sitting in the classroom, paying attention to the teacher. But the employer wants the unseen CV that would make the company move from one level to the next level through your energy vibration when you are working from that company. But you could be there with the papers, but you carry the energy that will bring down the company. Spiritual CV. Invest in it and it will go very far. Something else. This one is very important. Sexual purity. Sexual purity. I know now when I touch that, many people will tell me nonsense. Genesis 39, 6b. Genesis 13, is it 39, 6b. Now Joseph was well built and had some guy. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. Just imagine, he refused to eat this thing of the wife of the CDF. Do you know, by the way, Joseph became greater than Potiphar? Because Joseph was second in command to Pharaoh. Why? Look at verse 11. One day he went into the house he had to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by the cloak and he said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. And the next, you know what happened? Joseph was put in prison with a rape case accusation. The key word there is sexual purity. Joseph told that woman, I don't think if he could have met the Gen Z of today, either that Gen Z could have said no. I don't think. Joseph told him, my master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Sexual purity. That one is very key. And this is one of the factors that is making people to be unemployed. You become unemployable. You have employment skills, but you are not employable. This is sexual wickedness. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, I declare Holy Spirit intervention. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Something else is what? Is favor of God. Favor of God. Genesis 39 and verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes. Look at Genesis 39 and verse 21. The Lord was with him, and he showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warder. So Joseph was transacting with the currency of favor. So the point is currency of favor. Currency of favor. That is why when we read in the book of Acts 7, 9 to 10, the Bible says that God gave him goodwill. So the next point, we are a briefing. The next point is the gift of revelation. The gift of revelation. You can get that from Genesis 41 and verse 38. Genesis 41 and verse 38. The gift of revelation. So Pharaoh asked them, is it the gift of revelation is Genesis 40? Okay, you can just read Genesis 40 from the whole chapter, Genesis 40, but most precisely is Genesis 41. You can read from verse 1 all the way to verse 32, Joseph interpreting the dream of Pharaoh. That gift of revelation. Okay, write the following. Genesis 41 and verse 15 to verse 16. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. I cannot do it. Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. The gift of revelation. Genesis 41, verse 15 to 16. So Joseph, you could tell him a riddle. Do you remember when he was talking about his cup that Benjamin was being accused to have stolen? Joseph told them, how dare you steal the cup of my master that he uses in his divination? Have you ever read that verse? Can we read it? Yeah. Genesis 44, verse Gabi. Okay, he said that he uses that cup in doing divination. So Joseph had the gift of prophecy. That's what we call the gift of revelation. The next thing is the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God. Genesis 41 and verse 8. So Pharaoh asked them, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? Genesis 41 and verse 38. We are looking at the CV of Joseph. So imagine Pharaoh could look at all the people in that palace, the cabinet secretaries, the advisors, the members of parliament and the senators, and the magistrates and the judges, they were there. These are crises. And then Pharaoh looks at all of them, and he can identify that Joseph had the Spirit of God. How did he know the Spirit of God? He is a paganist. So these people, we think they do not see. But do you know, a paganist, a heathen, can look at you and tell you if you have God or not. Pharaoh is a paganist, but God can speak to him. God spoke to him twice. And Pharaoh can look at Joseph and tell Joseph, I see the Spirit of God in you. And himself is not with the Spirit of God, because he's an idol worshiper. Well, Joseph had the Spirit of God. The next thing is discernment. Discernment is what we say understanding. Genesis 41 and verse 39. So Pharaoh asked them, that 9. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. And Joseph had said in verse 33, let Pharaoh look for a discerning and a wise man. And Pharaoh told him, you are so discerning. You must make sure your IQ can be able to scan through the natural and the normal and the ordinary. So Pharaoh is telling Joseph, you are so discerning. And Joseph had said, who should work in that office? A discerning man. So all of them, Pharaoh is asking, can we find another one who is discerning like him? Are you a discerning person? Or you are just a carnal person? You cannot even detect black energies in the atmosphere. You are just there. That a demon can enter into your house, destroy the atmosphere and walk away, and you did not even detect it. Joseph could discern. His discernment was able to transport him to a journey of 14 years while he was studying before the Pharaoh. He went 14 years and came back and was able to write a very good manuscript for the king. The next thing is wisdom. Wisdom. Acts 7 and verse 10. Acts 7 and verse 10. God gave Joseph wisdom and enabled him to have wisdom. Acts 7 verse 10 is categorical. And Psalms 105 verse 20, we were told Joseph was teaching those officials the wisdom. Wisdom. And remember we said wisdom is a female spirit. Wisdom. That's very key. When the boss looks at you, when you're looking for a job, one of the things you try to detect in you is, do you possess the ability of solving problems? Or can you be a crisis catalyst? That is very key. Wisdom. And many job seekers, they are seeking job with knowledge. But the people who get the job are the wise one, not knowledgeable, but a man and a woman of wisdom. In the time of crisis, can you provide solutions that are outside books? Can you come up with ideas? Wisdom is very important. And you tell me, but how can they measure whether I am wise or not? No. When you carry wisdom, it speaks in the atmosphere. It speaks for you. There is a way it induces the atmosphere to create that kind of assurance about you. This one looks promising. Something else is name of value. The name of value. Genesis 41 and verse 45. He gave Joseph the name Zaphenath Paneah. And this issue of name, we have discussed it even yesterday about Esther and Hadassah. And we said, you cannot go through for a job as Evelyn Wajiko Mwangi, the way it is written on your ID, and get a job without understanding the energy that name produces in your atmosphere. Many people, what is limiting them in securing unemployment is just the issue of the name. What is your name? That name. Because the name is a portal through which energies are transmitted. So you are called your name. What does that name contain in terms of energies? There are people that carry the names that contain very retrogressive energies. The moment, what is your name? You say Joel. Immediately that name emits rejection, emits mistrust. Even before they continue, in their heart, they have already concluded this one is not the candidate we are seeking. The name only. Can you work on your name? If you see a factor being repeated twice, then it is a prominent factor. Something else is marriage factor. Marriage. That's what you see in the CV. They say right there whether you are married or they say your marital status. And nowadays, the CV writers, advisors, they are saying, in that area called marital status, don't say you are married. Say you are single. Why? Look at the current CVs. They are advising, don't say that you are in the marital status, don't say you are married. Why? Marriage is a frequency. Marriage is a frequency. He was given a wife called Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. Why did they not allow